All right, kids. Names. They can be used to get your attention, tell others what your ancestors did or where they came from or who their fathers were, and can be forgotten by your parents as they call you every one of your brothers and sisters' names, along with the cat, before they get to yours. Depending on how it sounds, your name can also prevent you or delay you from getting a job, let alone an interview. It's yet another form of discrimination that Black folks and other minorities have to overcome, and there's no excuse not to. We've known about this for decades, and we've been able to prove it since the 80s. Still,
I don't give a fuck what you think. White people in this country are the most discriminated against in 2021.
There's this study here and ones that say similar stuff that I mentioned in previous videos, like this one asking if Emily and Greg are more employable than Lakeisha and Jamal, finding that even equal opportunity employers had bias towards ethnic sounding names. Or this one stating that when credentials between white and Black applicants are identical, white folks with criminal records got callbacks more frequently than Black people without criminal records. Then me going in about a Black Fox News contributor who was also a civil rights attorney that doesn't believe in systemic racism. How does he even have a job? Not only that, but he is on record repeatedly saying that systemic racism impacts white people, if anybody. Uno reverse. I already used that joke in that episode. Clearly a frequent topic of mine. Yet, some European Americans simply want to be oppressed so bad. A former account on TikTok, whom I played earlier, called Not Friendly Felon, and I can only imagine what he said or did to get kicked off of that clock app, was all about IDGAF. And man, the only remaining clips of him are from others stitching his TikToks just to tell him about himself and dunk on him. No matter.
Still don't give a fuck what you got to say. White people in this country are the most discriminated against.
I have a theory. People talk loud when they want to act smart, right? TikTokers challenge him to provide proof of his claim that white people are the most discriminated against in 2021. And I remember him reading off a poll or a survey, and here's part of it. I wish I had the whole thing. I looked for it. His page ain't there. I hope my audience trusts me enough to do my due diligence and check. But I did find this.
All people of color. Tell me one nice thing about white people.
Their forefathers are from Europe. Keep that in mind as we proceed. Right after affirmative action and civil rights rulings, 1970s America gave us the start of so-called reverse racism. Apparently, trying to level the playing field for those who couldn't get land reserved for white people only in Capitol Heights negatively impacted those same people? Which is a feeling and a sentiment that remains to this day with the woke, DEI, and oh yeah, critical race theory resistant. A framework that explains why the playing field was not and is not level for what it's worth. Well, the Supreme Court recently made it easier for members of what can be known as majority groups to sue for discrimination by siding with an Ohio woman named Marlene Ames, and more on her way later, who claimed she lost 2 jobs to lesser qualified gay candidates because she is straight. Reverse discrimination is so back. I don't want to focus on that. Let's talk about a certain segment of the population that seems to be seeking equity, inclusion, and belonging among their lack of diversity. They maintain a belief that circumstances outside of their control have kept them from opportunities, yet it's their choices that are keeping them from others.
Can I ask you who you voted for?
That's a tough question.
Oh, oof.
Look at all of these lovely people.
Oof. I'm scared.
Is that going to be the out for me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I bet they need an employee resource group. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? Other than being most of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and most of the owners of franchises and major American team sports and the vast majority of Congress members and Supreme Court justices all time, 46 and a half presidents. Thank you to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video. Have you ever been in a public restroom and realized that not only can people see you in your stall, but they're actively looking to see what you're mixing up in there? And I'm not talking about the ones and twos. That's what it's like to get on the internet without protection. Well, a virtual private network like PIA fills in those gaps so that creeps can't see what you're doing. A VPN hides your IP address and keeps your internet connection safe. I wanted to watch Shawshank Redemption the other day. I hoped it would be available on Netflix, but it wasn't in America. However, it is in the Netherlands, but I didn't have to go all the way to Europe to watch the Ohio State Reformatory or drive an hour and a half to Mansfield to look at this prison with toilets that are kind of holding up in there. Private internet access is available for all platforms and protects an unlimited amount of devices at the same time. Stream away. So when you're watching videos like mine, junior samples won't even know you're there. It'll be like lifting your feet up when you're sitting on the toilet. Look, if you give people space, they will peek. Don't accidentally, or intentionally really, expose yourself. Let PIA flush the dark web while you take care of business. Make sure you wash your hands. Before using my link, piavpn.com/allright to get an 83% discount on private internet access. That's just $2.03 a month. And you also get 4 extra months completely free. That's piavpn.com/allright. Meet Mark Fitzpatrick, owner of the Old State Saloon and organizer of Hetero Awesome Fest, a celebration of traditional gender norms and heterosexual awesomeness, and an alternative to LGBTQ+ Pride Month. The festival, held on June 20th and 21st, directly across from the Idaho State Capitol, quote, ain't your limp-wristed woke fest. It's a full-on celebration of family values with guts. Ew.
What if in June at Old State Saloon, instead of ignoring or trying to be quiet about what's going on, what if we celebrate heterosexual awesomeness and we announce that? We posted that on Mondays would be beers for breeders, just a free beer for any male who's a heterosexual on Mondays.
Then there's Dual Deal Wednesday, 15% off entire bill for hetero couples. Don't forget her Happy Hour Thursday, all day her happy hour pricing for hetero ladies. And last but not least, straight from the tap Tuesdays, where they check each other's genitals to confirm whether or not they're trans.
What I learned was that the country and the world, for that matter, was basically at this point where they're saying enough is enough. Somebody is standing up to say, I'm celebrating heterosexuality during this month. And it was like overwhelming support from people.
By overwhelming support, he must have meant only about 30 to 50 people attending Hetero Awesome Fest across the 2 days. So I guess the enough is enough thing is what security officers were saying as they were letting people in by whatever is less than the dozens. Speaking of, seeing how there wasn't even enough people there at one time to be considered company wanting to celebrate heterosexuality, the fest lacked funding and ended with its organizers begging for donations to cover over $18,000 in security costs for a crowd of fewer than 100 people, according to Stonewall News Northwest. And in that promo video I've been showing, Fitzpatrick will go on to say, it wasn't more than 2 hours of thinking about what it could mean to a lot of people that he decided to move forward with the event. And you could tell he didn't consider it for very long, because similar straight pride events from the past, for example, one in California in 2019 and an event the same year in Texas, organized by the people who hosted Boston's failed straight pride parade, attracted embarrassingly very few people. But also,
they put him in dresses to keep him in line. They say it's a phase and it's all in his mind. They put him in ballet, he wants to play ball. What matters to him doesn't matter at all. The boy that everyone thought was a girl. We love you!
Which people? Daniel Hamrick was pulled off stage by Mark Fitzpatrick. And by the way, Hamrick and his friends made up some of that small gathering, and wow. So there were less people there than we thought. He sang a song with lyrics that go against our values, Fitzpatrick told KTVB. This is yet another example of lies and deceptions from the pride community. That's what they are, liars and deceivers. They do it to victimize children. It's pathetic and evil. Fitzpatrick said he came up with the idea for hetero awesomeness when he and his family were trying to figure out what to do for his daughter's birthday, which is in June. And he didn't want to take her or the rest of the family downtown during pride celebrations for fear of the overt sexuality that he sees in pride events and queer people. And if you're like me, you got a white person's name. Live with it. You're also wondering why he came up with a 2-day event after choosing to not go to one part of the city one time, only to try to counterbalance pride, which is usually a 1-day event. You should know that while Hetero Awesome Fest was held in June, Boise's official pride celebration takes place in September. The event was moved from its traditional June timing due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and organizers have maintained the September schedule. If you really want to know what this is about, what more could we expect from folks that frequent a saloon that has hosted Beers for Breeders nights, conspiracy theory trivia where patrons can win an AR-15, and gatherings for flat earthers? Racism. Oh yeah, we could expect racism.
But Boise's, it's a really nice place. It's
for
beautiful.
An American city.
It's top-notch American city.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are still very good bars around, great food. There's the Basque District. Again, it's clean. There aren't any black people here.
And tons of Mormons.
I should move on from this, and I will in a minute. Until then, while Mark Fitzpatrick distanced himself from those remarks, I don't think he condemned them or denounced them or disavowed them. And he maintains that hetero awesomeness was a success. He denies being racist and hateful in any way. He claimed that the seeming low turnout was due to chilly and rainy weather on Friday. Well, that Friday's high reached the mid-60s with just 1/1000th of an inch of precipitation. Saturday was 67 and breezy, and we know white people start wearing shorts in 42-degree weather. A supporter has said, everyone is welcome to come, no charge. Celebrate hetero awesomeness with us, and that includes all the gay homies, and that didn't include the musician. No, although, to be real, he did bore at them, so there's that. But don't call it the straight white pride event. The minorities who were there don't like it. All 2 of them. And hey, there were at least 14,000 people who watched the live stream. And as for David Riley mentioning black people, believe it or not, he attended the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville and stood by what he deemed to be a joke. Nobody's being discriminated against here except for him and his friends who were chanting they won't be replaced while wearing khakis and holding tiki torches. That was different. And, quote, diversity is a weakness, not a strength, according to him. Again, jokes. I mean, not that part, but jokes.
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash? And we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it for us.
He's just joking. It's a joke.
Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff, the face of anti-woke and anti-DEI ideology, and a man whose face says, not being able to use the N-word is discrimination against me. Miller's advocacy organization, America First Legal, had their say in the Ames Supreme Court reverse discrimination case. They wrote, highly suspect in this age of hiring based on diversity, equity, and inclusion, that majority groups are subjected to less discrimination than minority groups. Stephen Miller has also reportedly said in the past, it is shocking to look at the list, as we've compiled, of the number of foreign-born terrorists in the United States on voluntary visas we handed out. Not joking. Anyways, in spite of how he looks, a former high school friend of Miller's, who's now a comedian, wants us to get one thing straight about Stephen being strange.
Stephen Miller was never bullied in high school. Stephen Miller was the bully. Stephen Miller bullied kids in our school who were new to this country, who were learning English as a second language. He bullied the kids who are already marginalized by our society, and he continues to do that from the White House today.
Already marginalized by our society. So if a family came from, let's say, I don't know, a dirt floor shack in the village of Antipole, subsistence farmers in what is now Belarus, beset by violent anti-Jewish pogroms and forced childhood conscription in the Tsar's army, fleeing that village where their forebears had lived for centuries and took their chances in America, even though they didn't know English. Would Stephen Miller want to close the border to those refugees?
It was incumbent upon me to raise my voice, to let people know that this is a country of immigrants, and our family were immigrants. In fact, we were refugees. If my ancestors had not immigrated to the United States when they did, if they'd waited a few more years till 1924, the door would have been shut. My parents would have gone up the crematoria chimney. I wouldn't have been born, my sister wouldn't have been born, and certainly Stephen would never have existed. That
example I gave was Stephen Miller's family. It's how they came to America at the turn of the 20th century. Stevie is an immigration hypocrite. A quote from his uncle, his mother's brother. His ancestors got in, and he wants to shut the door behind them. A month ago, he tweeted, "Believe it or not, California used to be a paradise. Mass migration has brought us to where we are now." Kind of a self-owned because the mass migrants were Europeans. California was brown. It wouldn't be LA without Mexicans. And here's Stephen Miller from a day or so ago, almost completely repeating Nazi rhetoric. I won't play it. I'll give you this instead.
We have no choice. We have to call immigration.
I told Javier he'd be safe here, and I meant it.
I want to help this boy as much as you do, but I took an oath to uphold the law.
All he's trying to do is find his mom.
I know, but we have to go through the proper legal channels.
Was it legal when you forged my adoption papers? I'm an illegal immigrant, Mom. You've been harboring me for over 17 years.
Your situation was entirely different. We had to protect you.
And I need to protect Javier. If I don't defend him, who will?
White winger Stephen L. Miller, no relation, said, "The reason Hollywood can't get Superman right is Superman is about what's good about America and Hollywood hates America." Superman smashed the Klan. That's pretty good. Something Republicans won't do. Sit this one out. Conservatives have recently taken an opportunity to claim that the most famous orphan ever is either somehow not an immigrant at all or is a legal immigrant. And sure, there's a difference between an immigrant and a refugee. Superman, the fictional character who was not born in the United States and neither of his parents were citizens, he arrived as an undocumented, unaccompanied minor, created by people who drew upon their experiences as the children of Jewish immigrants, unveiling an American hero who came to the country as a refugee. It's a message that hit hard in the late 1930s as American nativism closed doors on European Jews trying to flee. I guess the right is boycotting the new Superman movie because director James Gunn said Superman is about an immigrant that came from other places and how we've lost the value of basic human kindness. Yes, it's about politics. His brother Sean added, "People who say no to immigrants are against the American way. They're against what the American dream is about." Plus,
MAGA today was getting a little upset that he called Superman an immigrant. I wanted to get your reaction.
Somebody needs a hug. It's just a movie, guys. It's just a movie.
A person who needs a hug was mistaking number 4s inside of a circle being written in the sky to represent the Fantastic Four as Qs. Having the wrong concerns and asking the wrong questions. Going back to the beginning of this video, though white workers account for about 2/3 of the US workforce, their discrimination claims make up only about 10% of race-based claims, according to data obtained by USA Today. So, will white men rush to court after justice's latest ruling? Perhaps. Straight people and white people were often held to a higher legal standard when bringing workplace bias claims than groups that historically faced discrimination. Makes sense. And America First legal senior counsel said the Supreme Court ruling, quote, should serve as a clear call for conservative litigators to continue to press for the rule of law. The template has been set.
In 2019, Ames applied for a promotion as a bureau chief, but didn't get it. The person who got it happened to be a lesbian. Soon after that, the organization underwent a restructuring, which resulted in Ames being moved back down to a position she'd previously held. This is not uncommon either in corporate or government restructuring. Part of the restructuring was due to prioritizing sexual violence in the juvenile correction system. While Ames's previous program directing experience was germane, the officials in charge determined she was difficult to work with and put someone else in the position. That person just so happened to be a gay man.
That TikTok goes into more detail about this Supreme Court case. I'll leave a link to it in the description of this video below. Before I go, from 2020 to 2022, the number of black executives rose by nearly 27% in S&P 100 companies. But a forceful backlash reframed DEI as illegal discrimination. In 2023, the ranks of black executives fell 3% from the prior year at twice the rate of white executives. As one important study found in 1996, diverse groups just do better. When people with different perspectives make decisions together, they can identify solutions that none of them acting alone would have recognized. Their different ideas can combine to identify new approaches that better serve the public interest. With that said, Uno reverse or Uno skip, whichever one's funnier and I haven't used before. We're gonna be all right.